Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2021 Jeep Cherokee, we're going to be showing you how to install the CURT TriFlex NEXT Trailer Brake Controller in conjunction with the CURT adapter plug. But before we get into that, let's just take a minute. We'll check this one out and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. Here's what the brake controller can look like installed in your Jeep, and honestly I think it's a pretty good fit. You know, it's relatively compact in size, and with these Cherokees, you know, there's just not a whole lot of room on the dash to mount up a bigger style brake controller. So I think it pairs up well here. Doesn't get in your way, but it's still going to be easy to see and use. The whole purpose of a brake controller is to apply the trailer's brakes whenever you hit the brakes in your Jeep. That way you're not just solely relying on your Jeep to do all the braking. You know, you can use some extra. So if your trailer is set up with brakes, it's almost a must-have. It's going to work with electric brakes as well as electric over hydraulic. So just about any scenario there, you should be in pretty good shape. And it'll work with trailers that have up to 4 axles. So, you know, chances are really good a vehicle like the Jeep be pulling trailers with 1 or 2 axles. So you'll definitely be covered as far as that goes. And in terms of what this looks like and everything, CURT has made some updates in the past, and I think it looks great. You know, the screen is easy to see what's going on, but it's not all lit up and everything when you're not using it, so it's not distracting. And everything's pretty user-friendly, so can't really go wrong there. This is a proportional style brake controller, which is what I recommend 99% of the time. And so what that phrase means is however hard you hit the brakes in your Jeep, the trailer's going to match that pressure. So for example, let's say if you're just kind of rolling up to a stop sign and you're halfway on that brake pedal, trailer's going to respond the same way. On the other hand, if there's an accident on the highway or something, and you have to make a sudden emergency stop and really stand on that pedal, the trailer brakes are going to match that pressure. And so it just makes for a much more smooth and predictable stop. To compare this brake controller to some of the other ones, as far as the ones similar to this, I kind of call them the traditional style where you actually mount up the box on the dash. With this CURT one here, if that's the style you're looking for, this one's probably your best bet. And I say it because it's compact, and the fact that you can mount it in pretty much any orientation that you want makes for a good fit for the Cherokee. With that in mind though, if you're looking for something that has more of a clean install look and you don't really notice, an excellent option and one that's really popular is the Red Arc. So this one's the Tow Pro Liberty. Has a lot of really cool features and functions, and with this style, this whole part here you can mount up under the dash where you won't see it at all, and then all of your adjustments are just going to come from this single knob here. So with these you can mount them pretty much wherever they fit, and the only thing that you would see would be the knob on the dash or wherever you mount it. So really clean install look, and if that's what you're going for, this is definitely one to consider. There are a couple of adjustments that you can do with this brake controller. So you have your mode button here. If you push that, you can run through them. So with gain, you know what this is going to do, this is going to establish the maximum amount of power available to the trailer brakes. So you can run it all the way down or run it all the way up. And with this, you know, usually a good place to start is somewhere in the middle. And if it feels like your trailer brakes need a little bit more power, they're not slowing you down as good as you'd like, you can always turn that up some. If they're too aggressive and wanting to drag and things like that, you can dial it down. So it's really just going to depend on what you're towing. You know, if your trailer's empty, you probably don't need a whole lot. Once it's loaded up, you know, you can make the adjustments that you need and kind of go from there. And then you have load. And what this is going to do is adjust how aggressive it is, so to speak. So kind of how hard they're going to come on as soon as you hit the brake there. So again, kind of the same deals with the gain. You know, if your trailer's light, probably don't need it to be super aggressive. If it's all weighed down and you have your items in or on the trailer, you can probably turn it up some and kind of fine tune everything to your particular trailer that you're going to be pulling. Then you have some other things too. You know, you can adjust the screen brightness and things like that, your day mode and night mode, to make it easier to see and operate whenever you're going down the road. And then you're going to have this slide here, which that's going to be your manual override. And so what this is going to do is send power back just to the trailer's brakes. So you would use this in the event of, let's say, a sway situation. If the trailer kind of starts to want to sway and get away from you a little bit, you can always kind of ramp this up, slow that trailer down, and get it straightened back out. That's really about it as far as the actual brake controller goes, but I do want to touch base on something that's really important, and that's how to figure out what parts you're actually going to need to make that brake controller work. And there's a few steps that you can do and check, because these Jeeps are all set up a little bit different, at least from my own personal experience. So first thing that you want to check, does your Jeep have the factory tow package? So back here, like ours does, we have this 7-way connector here. And if you see this on your Jeep, really good chance that you have that factory tow package. But there's something else you can check to kind of take it a step further and make sure that the brake controller adapter plug is going to work. Once you verified you do indeed have that 7-way connector, next thing you want to do is come under the dashboard here on the driver's side and check for the factory connector plug. So underneath a panel here, if you look up in there, you should see that connector plug. And if you do, you're in good shape, and you really won't need a whole lot of extra parts at all. If you verified that you do indeed have your 7-way and that connector plug, all you're going to need is the brake controller and this adapter plug. So we'll just plug right in to the brake controller, and then underneath the dash, that's really all there is to it. If you don't have those components, it's definitely a little more involved. First things first, you would need trailer wiring like this. So this kit is made by CURT. It's a custom fit for this Jeep, and it has a 4-way flat type connector. So you get this set up, and then you can use the etrailer.com universal brake controller install kit, and that will more or less convert this into the 7-way style connector that you're going to need you know, to allow your trailer to actually plug in. And that kit's going to come with a few of the other parts and pieces that you're going to need to actually get the trailer brake controller powered up and working properly. Ultimately, a really nice trailer brake controller. You know, if you're looking for that traditional style one, I think this is probably your best bet for the Cherokee. It just fits well. You can see it, easy to use, and it's going to work in just about any situation. So can't really ask for too much more. As far as the installation goes, you know, it's really just going to depend on how your Jeep's already set up. You know, if you need the brake controller install kit and the 4-way wiring, so on and so forth, definitely going to be a little more involved and time consuming. In our case, we had the factory tow package, and so everything was just plug and play pretty much. So really straightforward. And if yours is set up like this, shouldn't hardly give you any issues or take up your time. But if you're going to install it yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here in the driver's front seat on our Jeep, and we need to locate our factory connector plug, which is located right here in this area. There's going to be a panel that we can loosen up to get to it. Here's this little panel, and there's a screw there in the middle of it. If we loosen that up, we should be able to kind of pop this down and out of the way enough to get to the connector plug, which will be kind of located right back here. This is the connector plug that we're looking for. It's kind of just slid into this little plastic keeper here. Yours might be set up a little bit different, but the concept's the same. That connector plug should be located somewhere in this area here under the dash, but to get it out of that keeper, there's a little tab there, and when you push down on it, you can slide it back out of there. And that way it's a little bit easier to work with. With our connector plug ready to go now, I went ahead and resecured that panel the opposite way that we removed it, and we're ready to set up our brake controller. As far as mounting the brake controller up, you know, you don't have a ton of options in the Cherokee, but one option is right here. So I think that's what we're gonna do. It's easy to see, easy to get to, but out of the way at the same time. And the bracket, it's pretty nice. You can either use screws, or they give you some really good two-sided sticky tape. And being that there's an airbag system and other components relatively close to this area here, I'd rather not use the screws. So I think we're just going to use the sticky tape here and apply it to the dash like that. And if that's what you decide to do, just make sure that the surface is clean and dry. You know, I came in with some rubbing alcohol, wiped it down, let it dry off. That way we get excellent adhesion with our sticky tape. So I went ahead and took the included two-sided sticky tape, cleaned off our bracket, and stuck it to the bracket. And now the dash is ready to go. So I'll go ahead and put this into position and show you how it turned out. Here's where I put the controller. I think it turned out pretty good. Give you a better idea here. You can just slide it off there to see the bracket. And that's how it's set up. So when you put this on here, just make sure you push down on it to get it to stick really well. With our brake controller mounted and our connector plug ready to go, all we have to do is plug those two into each other. Before we go any further, cleaning up our wiring and everything, it's a good idea to test the brake controller to make sure that it's working properly. So I just hooked up to a test box here, which simulates a trailer. You can use your trailer that you have, but keep in mind if your trailer has any issues with it, it might mislead you into thinking something is wrong with what we did in the Jeep. But that said, we'll go inside and check it out. First things first, go ahead and push one of the buttons here. And we can see we have our power. I'll hit our brake. We're getting power sent back there. And for our manual override, we'll try that too. Ramp it up. We're getting power sent back. So I think it's safe to say we're good to go. I went ahead and cleaned up our wiring. Just used some of the zip ties and kind of tucked everything up under the dash. Here's how it turned out. When you're doing this, not really a whole lot to it. Just make sure you're not, you know, in contact with any moving parts, your brake pedal arm, your steering column, anything like that. So pretty straightforward. And to help kind of clean up our install look a little bit too, since the wiring coming out of the brake controller is just exposed wires, I took maybe 6 or 8 inches of wire loom, put it over there just to help it kind of blend in and look a little more finished. From there, you just want to start your vehicle on level ground. The brake controller will self-calibrate. And not a bad idea either to hook up to your trailer, go to a safe spot, and run through some braking sequences. The instructions will tell you, you know, what adjustments you can make and things like that if you need to. So that's always something you can try. But with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT TriFlex NEXT trailer brake controller in conjunction with the CURT adapter plug on our 2021 Jeep Cherokee.